Very good. So again, Jeff Gagno, Geneva Glen Capital, based here in Chicago, private equity firm or family office private equity firm. So the distinction there is that our money comes from a single wealthy family instead of a syndicate of investors, which is more traditional in private equity. The family is one of the wealthiest families in China. It's the Liu family, which controls a company called Wansheng. It's about $30 billion in revenues. And we work with the son-in-law, who's here in Chicago, so it seems kind of far away, exotic maybe, but great working relationship the last 9 years. We started working with them in 2010, and we invest in a variety of industries. We're generalist, and the size checks we write is anywhere from 10 million to 75 million. So that would equate to probably 20 to 200 million of purchasing power initially, and then we can invest more over time as needed. That's a little bit on us, and I'll give more details as we get into the subject matter.
I just wanted you to mention how focused you are on working with executives and how talent plays a role in your operating model.
No, thanks for pointing that out. Because we're generalists, we can't know everything about everything. So, we really rely a lot on operating executives who have very specific domain expertise within a particular sector. And that's where we've had the most success is where we go meet with a company, an owner, and we have an executive there, and they can speak to all the very unique nuances of that particular industry, that particular company. They may know the same people. So we put a big premium on domain expertise as much as anything. So you may have a thesis, investment thesis, and it's an industry you haven't worked in together. We're probably a little bit more, we're opportunistic. We'll hear those things, but we do put a premium where you've been there and done that, and you know what to look for, because we see a lot of different types of industries, but every industry is very different in terms of what the particular challenges are to be successful in that market.
Jeff, follow-up question. So I looked at your comments responding back to your list of people who you wanted to see or not see. You say you're opportunistic in general, but yet you didn't necessarily like retail. Well, I saw one there. Then I saw someone else didn't put a deal thesis in, so you X'd them out there because they only have so many slots. What are some of the things that you look for besides been there, done that, when you're going through and scheduling for these conferences of who you're going to meet?
No, it's a fair comment. There's certain industries we don't like. One, because our money comes from a Chinese family. We're not going to buy a defense contractor. So I know some of you had aerospace and defense. So that would we'd be disqualified from the U.S. government of owning a business like that. We don't like retail, bricks and mortar retail. Well, e-commerce we're open to. We're not restaurant investors. We do like consumer. We like food. We like consumer durables. We like healthcare. We like healthcare services in particular. Logistics, we like business services. We like more asset light type of businesses versus capital intensive. We tend to shy away from industries with high degrees of cyclicality. So, like building products is one that, at this point in the economic cycle, it's challenging to get comfortable in the next 5 years, which is our typical hold period. That we're not going to be faced with a downturn and have to restructure a company. So we wouldn't pay much. We would be open-minded to look at a building products company, but anything with a high degree of general economic cyclicality, although I couldn't tell you when the recession is going to happen. I don't think nobody knows.
Goldman is saying that if Trump's reelected, it'll push the recession off a bit more.
Okay.
It must be true then.
Just read that today.
All right.
Trump was saying that too.
Right. Talking in this book,
So those are some of the likes and dislikes, but I'd say more than half the GDP is fair game for us if you look at the sectors we do invest in. But again, you're right in that list, and I try to be thoughtful in terms of figuring out who would be the best fits. Is that if there's low likelihood we're going to do something in that particular industry, then I'll save them for Peter or Chip.
Except I have the same interests as him.
And Jeff, you've been here a few times, right?
A few times, yes.
A few times, more than a few times. All right, so Peter.
So Peter Ryder with RFE Investment Partners. We had the first close on our 9th fund in December.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We focus on a couple different things. Our focus is on lower end of the middle market. So for us, that means companies call it 20 million to 100 million in revenue, 3 to 12 million of EBITDA. We really like kind of north of 7 to 10, but we'll start smaller if we see a very good kind of fragmented market with a buy and build strategy around it.
What's the definition of fragmented?
More than 2 companies to buy as an add-on.
Okay.
So, look, most of the companies that we're going to look at are going to play in a market that's, 500 million to $1 billion. If they're, 25 to 100 million in revenue, there's going to be a lot of other players in that market. Looking at a market that's very, very small and defined, sub 100, and you're a 50 million company, there's not much you can do with it. So we need enough avenues for growth that if you can't get target A, B, and C, there's still D through Z that you can kind of go after and kind of look to make some fundamental changes to the business. And the goal for us is not to sell 5 years from now what we bought, but to sell what we bought plus these added capabilities, services, geography, whatever the case may be, as well as kind of a pathway for the next owner. So expanding that addressable market is a key component of what we're looking to do. 2 broad areas: manufacturing, services, very broadly defined. Similar to Jeff, we're not big in restaurant. We're not big in facility-based retail. Financial services we can't do because of some of our funding, and then we don't do highly cyclical or kind of project-oriented businesses where you're constantly having to sell a $20 million project time after time after time. We like things that are a little bit more repetitive.
And talent, you have a partner.
So, other than, kind of the buy and build, the other key for us is, kind of working to build out that team. A lot of owner entrepreneurs, tend not to fill those, that next level of management as keenly as we would for executing on a growth strategy. So working with either the owner entrepreneur or an executive that's coming in to kind of run that company is, what are the people that we need, those resources to be able to execute on the growth strategy. We were spending so much time as partners on recruiting that we actually brought in an outside resource in-house, a former partner out of Spencer Stewart, management, from kind of finding industry to close, and then working with our companies to kind of fill out those individual slots. So it's a little bit unique for somebody down in this end of the market, but it's becoming a thing.
For sure, and you've been here also.
I don't know,
a good number of times.
It's got to be at least the last 2 years.
Yes.
Great, so thank you. Chip Weinberg from Weinberg Capital. We're a Cleveland-based hybrid between a family office and a private equity firm in some ways. Similar to Jeff, I think one of the main differences is that I'm a member of the family, so I view that as an advantage. I can certainly move with speed of execution in terms of decision-making, some other things that I'm cognizant of, and I use that when I can. I think I like to say hybrid because I think we have the best of both asset classes of being in terms of family offices where we have the attributes of sort of being flexible, kinder, gentler image than a lot of private equity has, fairly or unfairly. At the same time, we have the repeat serial professionalism that you would get out of a private equity firm. So there are some families out there that sort of decide they want to be in the deal world and they hire somebody, but it's not really a core thesis to go do serial acquisitions in a repeat fashion, and a lot of the things that you've heard discussed here today. I think some of the other things I think about a lot are, we have core values that maybe I can talk about later that we implement at the companies that we purchase, and one of them is customer focus. But in this case, I've always viewed the customer as being, one, it would be the seller and the owner of the business, and so I spend a lot of time thinking about how to create their perfect world and actually get them to sell at that moment of truth. And I think our history and background can be very synergistic with what they may envision for their legacy. And then in this particular environment, I would view the executives as my customer, because I feel that you could help me achieve my goals, and I want to be user-friendly for the people that I talk to. So for me, that means I'm going to give a package to whoever works with me I'm going to tell them that they can have options, they can have the salary they want, they can contact me easily, and they're not going to be micromanaged. So in that sense, we like to be user-friendly.
Would you say that executives might help you to be more customer-oriented toward the seller? Would they help you to create that opportunity for seller?
Absolutely, but it depends on when they come into the mix of what I'm doing. So in here, it may be on the front end, but you could envision this strategy working at multiple points in time, depending on what you're doing. And then we target sort of lower middle market, 3 to 6 million in EBITDA sweet spot. I'll go lower or bigger depending on the situation.
Lower than 3 million?
I would, because it's a competitive advantage.
Yeah, walk us through what are the qualities that have to be there. Many of these people, certainly they're working on going after much bigger opportunities, because I see all the deal thesis and talk to many, but they have plenty of opportunities on the smaller. So how would they know that it justifies going after? That 3 million, below 3 million is like lack of oxygen space.
That's right. As a matter of fact, I did a postcard mailing a number of years ago when I wanted to differentiate myself that had 2 people playing chess and one guy moving his pawn out that said, "We're not afraid to do smaller deals." And so I could spend an hour talking about the answer to that. So just quickly, there's no, unfortunately, one thing that would answer that question, because you're right. It's very fragile at that size, so you have to have enough margins that you can
Margins enough, 20% EBITDA, 10% EBITDA margin?
Depends on the
Gross
sector.
margin.
I mean,
Okay.
so you have to have it has to be scalable, or fragmented so that you can do a roll-up. For me, it would have to be something that I could get to easily, so that if there was heavy lifting. So I view it my direct flight strategy within 2 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's at that level, I need it to be in those things, and close by. It's got to have a niche that I can defend. It's got to be scalable. I've got to believe that enough of the team, like if I'm viewing like a sports team, I can't start over with one player. I need a couple
Strong players already in there, okay?
Although LeBron did take Cleveland pretty much without any help, but I don't know that I can do that.
Market probably matters, right? If it's high growth, high potential market, that would play into your decision.
Add-ons? Add-ons with it? Plenty of add-ons?
Yeah.
You want it organic?
I think, so I'd like to see add-ons, but at the same time, I never want my strategy to be dependent upon it, because I've been through that, where on paper everything looks great. You've got a fragmented market and all these great add-ons, but when it comes down to the execution, you can't force somebody to sell. So if they don't want to sell, I want to make sure that my platform is still a solid, stable business that I'm going to be happy with.
Yeah, I really want to mark that out for those of, again, with you in the buy and build strategy. It all looks perfect. Like, yeah, we can do these add-ons, but having sellers able can be years out, and then you are languishing, eating up time, and these PE firms, all, number one, that they have lack of is time.
Chip, you've been here also a
Yes.
number of times.
Yes,
so
I have.
we have a panel of veterans here. Thank you for your support. So the panel, again, what it's like to work with private equity. So we'll start with, let's say you partner, before transaction, so you partner with somebody, maybe somebody from the audience. So what do you expect from them in terms of knowledge, in terms of access, in terms of, initiative, even in terms of temperament, personality and such. So start with you, Jeff. Open field, what you expect.
I'd say probably the most important attribute is resilience and persistence, and it's a marathon. It's a long run.
With uncertainty, right?
Uncertainty, right? That's probably I have conversations with executives probably every day of somebody, and it's the distinction between trying to find a equivalent to a job versus just building a company, and be willing to turn over stones, find opportunities, call companies directly. That's daunting. It's hard work. It's frustrating, but I think the willingness to do outreach, in particular, first of all, have conviction in a particular sector. My feelings already about domain expertise, so I won't belabor that. But willing to and we can help, and certainly Blackmore can too, in terms of identifying a target list and then go after that market with conviction, and just be dogmatic about it and just work the phones and try to find those companies, because and we'll work our network too, investment bankers. I mean, shame on us if a deal closes in the sector and we were being proactive and we didn't see it. I mean, we should see everything that's being actively marketed through an investment bank. But you can unearth opportunities that are not going through an investment bank. It's still in this day and age. It's tougher. Proprietary deals are much more infrequent, but if you are an executive, and it's particularly one where you've worked in before, you're going to have credibility, like that someone may be willing to listen, and that's the in to get the door open and start a dialogue.
If I may ask you, how would you recommend executives start a conversation? What would be maybe 2-3 things? Maybe how they represent themselves, anything that you can maybe recommend for
Sure.
executives who are willing to do an outreach?
Sure. First thing is, what stage are they in their life? Are they, particularly family businesses? The question is, do they have kids that are in the business, or they have aspirations to pass, to the next generation, pass the business along? I think the traditional thinking was that it's going to stay in the business multi-generations. I think that's changed a lot because owners are educated. Like, for the kids, millennials, whatever, they may not want to be. They saw dad or mom, working like crazy, and they don't want that lifestyle. And two is, the owner may say, I don't want my kids in it